when I found my great-grandfather's uniform in my grandmother's attic. A photograph slipped from the breast pocket, edges worn soft from 10,000 touches, creased down the middle from being folded and unfolded. But it wasn't the photo of my great-grandmother. It was a young Frenchwoman I'd never seen before, and on the back, in his handwriting, Marie, Calais, the one I couldn't save. My great-grandmother had kept this uniform for 67 years, knowing her husband died with another woman's picture over his heart. What I discovered next explained why she never once spoke badly of him, why she visited the cemetery every single Sunday until she couldn't walk anymore, and why his final letter home contained just 4 words that made her weep. But let me start from the beginning, because this story isn't what you think. Private James Mitchell, 82nd Airborne, deployed to Europe 3 weeks after marrying my great-grandmother Catherine in May 1944. He was 22 years old. She was 20. They'd known each other since they were kids in rural Pennsylvania, and everyone said they were the couple who'd grow old together. In the 4 months before D-Day, James wrote Catherine 37 letters. I found every single one tied with the same blue ribbon she used on her wedding bouquet. The early letters were full of the hope, talking about the farm they'd buy, the children they'd have, how he'd be home by Christmas. Letter number 19 was the last one where he mentioned coming home. On June 6, 1944, James parachuted into Normandy. His unit was scattered, pinned down by German machine gun fire for 2 days. When they finally pushed inland, they liberated a small village outside Calais on June 23rd. That's where he met Marie Dubois. She was 19 years old, hiding in a bombed-out church with her 6-year-old sister Sophie. Their parents had been killed in the initial invasion. Marie spoke broken English. James spoke no French. But he shared his rations with them, gave Sophie his lucky penny, and promised he'd get them to safety. But that's not even the most heartbreaking part. The village came under attack again that night. James's unit received orders to fall back. German panzers were moving in, and they were outnumbered 5-1. Standard protocol: evacuate immediately. James's sergeant ordered him to move out. But Marie and Sophie were still in that church with 14 other villagers, and the route to Allied lines meant crossing through active combat. James made a choice. He told his unit he'd catch up. He went back into that village alone. What I found in his personal effects: letters that were never sent, a diary he kept hidden from military censors, revealed what happened during. In his diary, James wrote about Sophie teaching him French words, about Marie singing to keep the children calm during artillery barrages, about Rodriguez telling jokes in the dark to stop people from panicking. He wrote about the impossible mathematics of ammunition. 15 rounds left, 20 people to protect. He wrote one letter to Catherine that he never sent. It said, "I'm doing something that might mean I don't come home. But Kathy, I have to. These people have names. They have faces. I can't leave them. I need you to understand that I love you. But I can't be the man who walks away. I hope you can forgive me." The truth was hidden in plain sight, in a letter the army sent to Catherine. On June 26th, a British unit reached the village. They found James, Rodriguez, and Williams still alive, still fighting. They'd held that position for 72 hours, with almost no ammunition, no food, and no sleep. All 17 civilians survived. Rodriguez took shrapnel in his leg, Williams lost hearing in his left ear from a close grenade blast. James had a bullet graze across his ribs and hadn't slept in 3 days. The British captain who found them recommended all 3 for Silver Stars. But what happened next haunted him forever. The evacuation was chaos. Trucks, wounded soldiers, refugees, everyone trying to get behind Allied lines before the Germans counter-attacked. James helped load the villagers, families he'd protected, children who'd learned to trust his smile. Marie was the last one. She pressed something into his hand. The photograph of her and Sophie, taken before the war, when their parents were still alive. "Pour ce souvenir," she said. "To remember." James promised he'd find them after the war ended, make sure they were okay. Sophie gave him back his lucky penny. "For you safe," she said in her careful English. The truck pulled away. James never saw them again. 3 weeks later, on July 17th, James's unit was ambushed during Operation Cobra. A mortar round hit their position. Rodriguez died instantly. Williams survived but lost his left arm. James took shrapnel to his chest and abdomen. The field medic said he might make it if they got him to a hospital fast enough. They carried him to an aid station, but there were too many wounded, not enough doctors, not enough time. This is where the story takes a turn that shattered me when I discovered it. James was conscious. He knew he was dying. A chaplain sat with him, and James asked him to write a letter. Not to Catherine, though he loved her. Not to his parents. He asked the chaplain to write to Marie Dubois in Calais. The letter said, "Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't keep my promise. Tell her Sophie's penny was in, but James kept her photograph." Right over his heart. When they prepared his body to send home, they found it in his breast pocket, blood-stained, creased, but carefully protected. The army sent it to Catherine with his other effects. Can you imagine opening that box, being a young war widow, and finding another woman's picture? But here's what made me understand my great-grandmother's love. Catherine received one final letter from James, written 2 days before he died. In it, James told her everything about Marie and Sophie, about the choice he made in that village, about the fact that he knew staying might cost him everything, but leaving would have cost him something worse: the ability to look at himself in the mirror, to be the man Catherine believed he was. He wrote, "I love you enough to tell you the truth. I stayed for strangers because you taught me what real love looks like. It's bigger than just us. If I die here, know I died being the man you made me want to be." And then, at the bottom of that letter, 4 words in careful handwriting: "I'd choose you again." Catherine kept the photograph in James's uniform for 67 years. She never remarried, but it wasn't because she was bitter or heartbroken in the way you'd think. When I asked my grandmother about it before she passed, she told me, "Your great-grandmother said James showed her that love isn't about possession. It's about becoming who you're meant to be. He died protecting strangers because that's who he was. She loved him more for it, not less." I did something Catherine never could. I had the internet. It took me 3 years, genealogy websites, and a French researcher, but I found Sophie. She's 87 years old now, living in Paris. I sent her James's diary and the photograph. She called me, crying so hard she could barely speak. She said Marie never forgot the American soldier. She died in 2003, but before she passed, she told Sophie, "I owed him my life. I wish I could have told him thank you. I wish I could have told him his kindness saved more than our lives." It saved our faith that good people existed. Sophie has James's lucky penny. She carried it for 80 years. Next month, I'm flying to France to meet her. I'm bringing my great-grandmother's wedding ring. Catherine wanted Marie's family to know she understood, that she never resented the choice James made. Because love isn't always simple. Sometimes it's a soldier choosing strangers over safety. Sometimes it's a wife cherishing a rival's photograph. Sometimes it's carrying a penny for 80 years waiting to say thank you. James Mitchell died at 22. He never got to buy that farm, never had those children, never.